Hi, I'm Chris Levy, technical partner at Aquila Super. And so today in this little briefing, we're going to talk about what happens when your trustees have been naughty and they're going to cop a compliance breach. It's actually becoming a lot more common to have to lodge contravention reports or pick up a breach, not because um, uh, Look, not because the trustees are becoming naughtier. It's just that the rules are tightening up, and the ATO's expectations have also, the bar has gone up a bit, which is catching people that are just doing normal things. But I'll just talk about the what are the types of breaches in terms of magnitudes, and what to expect and what to do. So I guess the first thing is what are the types of breaches, and at its sort of simplest, you've got the big breaches, which is basically where it's all based on dollar values. Generally, it's where the size of the breach is more than 5% of the assets of the fund, or it's the breach is more than $30,000. You need both those categories. It has to be more than 5% and it has to be more than $30,000 breach. And in that instance, what happens is the trustee will call a Part B qualification of the audit opinion. But because it's more than 30,000 and the 5%, it will also cop a contravention report to be lodged with the ATO. Now, to say it's a big breach, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a big naughty thing. It could just be, like a accidental transfer of $100,000 gets fixed up the next day. So it's not end of the world sort of stuff, but it does, because of the magnitude of it, it is a big breach. The small breach is it's more than, the breach is more than $30,000, but it's not more than 5% of the value of the fund. And we see this quite often, actually. Particularly with funds of a couple of $1 million. Accidental transactions can easily be over $30,000, but only a tiny fraction of the value of the fund. In that instance, contravention report is applicable again. The final one, the trivial breaches. Now, this is where materiality doesn't come into it, and it arises from where we've told the trustee, look, you've had a small breach here, something tiny. Classic example of bank overdrafts. Let's say there's life insurance coming out or an investment management fees coming out automatically every month. The trustee's forgotten about it and it's tipped them into overdraft. Just say $100 overdraft. It's been rectified really quickly, but it's a tiny little error. Auditors are required to notify the trustee of such breaches. And say, look, you can't do this, don't do it again, and then we look out for that the following year. Now, if in the next year's audit, that breach, the same sort of sections or regulations have been breached, and those breaches have happened after the auditor has notified the trustee to say, look, don't do this. In that instance, it's an automatic ACR, and again, it could just be $100. It could be $100 overdraft in a $5 million fund. We're still required to lodge that ACR. It's like it's what we call the jaywalking type offence. It feels a bit silly to do it, but the rules are the rules, and we have to follow it. And look, the final thing I just want to say, just before we go on to consequences, is there's obviously the new SMSF rules. Where a fund has been operating for 15 months or less, there's a breach that's happened in that first 15 months. The threshold for notifying the ATO of a breach drops down from $30,000 down to only $2,000. So it can be very easy to sort of trip over the line. The final point I'd make is that multiple small breaches are sort of accumulate together. So you could actually have a couple of tiny breaches, but which by themselves are not enough to be reported to the ATO, but collectively they will. So again, bank overdraft's another one. Little breaches all through the year, quickly rectified, but you add them all up, more than 30,000 contravention report. So let's say one of your trustee falls into one of those categories and a contravention report sent off to the ATO. What can you expect? Look, to some extent, we don't know. The ATO generally, keeps their own rules on this themselves. But from experience and from watching what happens to other funds, first thing I say is they usually don't move very fast. You might get a letter, I don't know, 6 months. I've seen some even 12 months later from the ATO. Sometimes they are very generic, sort of, in the contravention report, one of the specific questions is we have to notify them as to whether the breach has been rectified. I don't know if, where it has been rectified. Sometimes the ATO just won't do anything about it. Other times they'll say, look, we acknowledge this has happened. They'll send a letter to the trustee saying, look, this, we've been notified of this, don't do it again. Where the breach has not been rectified, or we've said that we don't know if it has, the ATO will say, look, you need to rectify this. But they seem to be very standard templates, standard sort of letters that get issued. What I will say is those type of standard letters from the ATO, they tend to be the more non-serious breaches. Like I said, bank overdrafts, maybe sort of a minor issue with the title on an asset, sort of trivial things. The big breaches though, the big nasty ones, well, that usually has a tailored response from the ATO. These are the loans to members or businesses, questionable transactions, and you can sort of see that's been, those contravention reports have been diverted to the more serious section of the ATO's SMSF division, and that's where they do take a much greater interest. They request particular documents, and so where your client really has been pretty naughty, you can possibly expect some investigation from the ATO. So look, that's basically it. The only other point I'd make is that we have where a client or trustee will get a breach. It can be a little bit confronting and a bit unsettling for a lot of accountants. They're not used to this, maybe with their previous order, just sort of let everything slide. Look. There can be a tendency to sort of try and negotiate with the auditor. Oh, look, it's not that serious, and look, guys, please don't do that. Obviously, we don't like reporting trustees, but the ATO, one of their feral hates is when an auditor comes across a breach and it's not dealt with accordingly. Like I said, the $100 overdraft, if you miss up on that, even though it's a tiny little amount, they will get stuck into the auditor later on. And this is where people get referred to the ASIC, for having their licenses revoked. So we're under a lot of pressure as well. Generally, if a trustee cops a breach or has breached the SIS Act, you just have to play it with a straight bat and just let the system work as it's supposed to, and sort of work through any queries the ATO might have. And ultimately, what I'd really say is just fix the problem. But at the end of the day, you just have to let it sort of play out as it will. Thank you.